scholars, and welcome to Miss Bowles' virtual classroom. I'm really excited to share with you today a free and really easy photo editing program. Now, a photo editing program, if some of you might not know, but it's similar to Adobe Photoshop. Adobe Photoshop is the creme de la creme of image editing. And photographers use it, graphic designers use it, and a lot of people who work within a context of curating their visuals in a professional setting use some sort of imaging editing software. It's a really good tool for you to use in whatever way that you would like. You can use it in personal creative endeavors, or you can use it in a professional endeavor as well. So it's a really good tool to have in your tool belt, and I'm really excited to share it with you today. Now, there is, it's called Pixlr, and I'm gonna share with you how to use it in a web browser, but you can create a login and actually download it to your device. Now, depending on the device, some devices it works better than others, and depending on your ability to navigate that device as well. So I think I'm just going to start with the easiest one, and then if you can decide which one you would like to do in the future. Now, let me show you. Awesome. Okay, so now you can see my internet browser. I'm just going to go back to where I started. So I Googled Pixlr, P-I-X-L-R, Pixlr, and I clicked on photo editor in the first search from Google. You can click the first link, but this one actually just brings you straight to where you need to be. So I would click Pixlr editor, and I click Pixlr editor, and oops, there we go, awesome. Now I can select from two things. The photo editor for pros is just gives you more ability to kind of edit a lot of more different kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It helps you edit in a lot of more different tools, and it helps to kind of give you a little bit more control. The easy photo editor is something where I think I would suggest if you're starting from basics, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to start from our basic understanding of photo editing, and that's what you can do. When you become a pro and you're like, I want to do these specific things and I want to make this a specific way and I feel really comfortable with the photo editor, you can go to the pro. But let's launch the simple one first, because you got to walk before you can run. Now, I've already made an example here, but I'm going to create something new. So I'm going to create a new one, and there's a lot of different options you can choose from. Now, on the bottom, it's really important that you see what's on the bottom. This is the number of pixels that create the image by width and by height. So rule number one, whenever you're editing a photograph or anything on a computer, you can always make it smaller. You can't make it larger. Making something larger is going to degrade the actual value and quality of the image. So always start big and go smaller. Now it tells you kind of what they're good used for at the top. So this one says web small. That means if you want to upload this to the web and put it in a small kind of box, kind of like where my video is in the corner, that's what that would be. Web 720p is something where if you wanted to create a banner on a website, that would be helpful. Full HD is if you want to print out this image and make it big and hang it up on your wall kind of situation. Instagram, I'm sure y'all know what that is. Facebook cover, these are kind of the basic amount of pixels per and basic usages for images that you would edit online. I'm going to go full HD Actually, no, I'm not going to go full HD. That's a little excessive. But I'm going to go web 720p because we're not trying to make anything super grand here right now. I'm just showing you an example. Now, over here on this side, I'm going to move myself for a second. You can see titling and the width and height. Now, if you know specifically how long and how big you want your image to be, you know exactly where it's going to go, the website told you, or what have you, you can actually edit the amount of pixels that your image is going to be created to. I am not looking for something that specific, so I'm just going to leave what the website has suggested for me, and I'm going to title and background. For your background, please do not choose anything crazy to begin with. Only choose something black or white. In a professional artist, they most of the time always start with a black and white background to help them build on top of. But when you start to create your own aesthetic and there's things that you want to like really hone in on and use specific colors for specific reasons, then you can start to branch out to colors. But starting with black and white helps you really understand the quality of the image on top of the background. So this is something that I really suggest that you start with. And then once you feel like you've gotten the hang of what the quality of the image looks like, once you've started editing it, then go ahead and start to use those backgrounds. Because if you have an orange background and you have blue image, those are contrasting colors and they can actually dictate like to each other. So the orange is actually going to make the blue look a lot darker than it might actually be. So things to think about. There's a lot of color theory that you can use, and that's why some people use color backgrounds, because they want to dabble with that color theory. Black and white, just gonna make it simple. Okay, so I'm gonna choose white for my background color, and I'm gonna hit create. Oops. Yeah, I chose white for my background color, and I'm gonna hit create. Now I have a big, beautiful white space that I can use. Over here, where it says layers, this is a really important thing to understand. Whenever you're working in any image editing software, it will always have layers. Now, layers work like this. They go on top of each other. So when you have layers, there we go. So when you have layers, they go on top of each other, always. And sometimes you can actually see through the layers if you change the opacity or the transparency of the layer. But if you have just two big images on top of each other, you can't see them. Now, if you have a smaller image on top of a bigger image, then you can see that, because you're always going to be looking from a bird's eye perspective. You're never going to be looking at it from this side view. You're always going to be looking at it like this, from this view, bird's eye perspective, right? So you really want to make sure you understand the layers. You want to make sure that you're actually editing the layer that you want to edit and not the other layer. So that's a really important feature to keep track of and keep organized. Now, over here are all your basic tools. Now, I'm going to walk you through each tool, but if you ever forget what a tool is about, you can just hover over it with your cursor and it'll tell you, which is the awesome part of Pixlr. Adding an image. You can take an image from a browser, from their clip art section. You can do an image that you have on your computer, like say you want to edit a screenshot, things like that. Or you took a selfie with your phone or whatever, and you're using your phone to do this. You can take an image from the device you're using, from the internet, or from their stock. An element. So this is an overlay or like a sticker that you can add on top of your picture. So sometimes people like to have a little coffee mug and then there's smoke coming out of it. The smoke is the little sticker that you can add, and it's a transparent layer so you can see what's behind it. Text. Need I say more? Drawing. Drawing is really difficult on the computer. I personally suck at it. I'm really bad at it. But there's some people who are really good at it. It takes a lot of hand-eye coordination to use a mouse and draw what you want to do. It's a lot of really small micro muscle movements that you have to master. But if you have a touch screen, it might be a little bit easier to just use your finger and draw. Retouching. Retouching is a cool tool because it kind of like takes information from one part of an image and puts it towards another. Now, when you see a lot of celebrity images, and there's like talk about how they cover up their zits and like their scars and like their imperfections and things like that, this is how they do it. They do it with a retouching tool, which basically takes like it's a circle and takes a small amount of information from one area and puts it onto another area. So like, let's say that I have a lot of acne on my chin and I don't have a lot of acne on my cheeks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small amount of information from there and put it on my chin. And now it looks like I don't have any acne on my chin because I'm using the information from my cheek to cover up the acne on my chin. Liquify. So when you see like any videos with someone with really big eyes, or you see an image like that, they're using the liquify tool. It basically just kind of makes things a little bit more wavy and bigger and amplifies stuff. The liquify tool is really cool to use if you want to make like a real image look freakishly cartoony, like freakishly real and cartoony at the same time. Liquify image. Effects. They're kind of like filters on Instagram, except they're kind of basically just colors. So if you wanted to make an image black and white because you wanted it to look like all old school or whatever, that would be something. Or if you want to make it look yellow, filters now are a little different. Filters kind of like make things look grainy. They alter the image a little bit more than just putting a color over it. They like make it like they'll like create a vignette, which is when like it's black on the edges and everything in the middle is the same. These are kind of like if you want to make your images look really artsy, quote unquote, that's the thing that you would go to. Adjusting your brightness, your colors, and your lights and your vibrancies. This is what all professional photographers use, and this is something that is a staple in their toolbox. Because sometimes you may take an image and it might be so well like framed and you have everything that you want in it, but it's too dull. You can just adjust the brightness a little bit and voila, it's the image you really wanted it to be. So this is kind of like, I would suggest always using this tool first to make the image exactly the way you want it to look. Then you can go to your effects and things like that. Cutout is really cool when you start to get really good at adjusting your images, and then you want to create like a collage, let's say, and there's an image that you want to use, but it has a weird background on it, and you want to make it smaller so it can fit within the layers on top of the layer that you're using. What you can do is you can use this cutout tool. Now, let's say that I wanted to use just my head, but I had everything in this picture. I could actually cut out my head specifically and put it on top of like a flamingo's body or something like that. That's what the cutout tool would be used for. Crop tool. Crop tool, we all know, is it kind of cuts off like the excess side or background that you don't want in an image. So let's say I just wanted a picture of my head. I would crop it. It's hard to do like with your hands. I would crop just like the background and just do my head. Arrange. Need I say more? You pick something, you put it on another part. Proportions. Proportions are really important also with images. Like I was talking about before with the pixels and the ratios. If you want an image to become a square, but it is a rectangle, crop it. Do not just adjust it to a square, because then the image is going to get warped and it's not going to look as crisp as it did before. So if you want to make a different shape out of the image, crop it. Keep try and keep your proportions to your images. Try not to warp them or make them long and like really funky. Try to keep them the exact proportions that they were in the beginning. If that's what you're going for though, you want everything to look distorted and weird, cool, do it. If that's not what you're going for, then make sure that you're always keeping the same proportions. All right, so I kind of explained all the tools, I explained how important layers are, I explained how to use the program, where to find how to use it. Now let's use it. I'm going to use an image from their stock, but you can browse your own computer, you can do a URL link, or you can use what they have. Oh, I got boats this time. Okay. Let's use this image. Why not? So I clicked on an image and now it's loading. That image might take a second. Awesome. You do not want to create a new. You want to add to your current. When you're creating a new, and if like you know that you don't want to use a white background, you want to use an image as your background, you can hit create new. If you know that you kind of want to crop this image or use it in a way that's not going to be your background, add current. So I'm going to do that. Add to my current. Now I have an image and I can adjust it. I'm going to use the crop tool and I'm going to crop my image. Now I'm using the corner here to keep the proportions. You see how I'm using the corner? You can use the edge if you want to make it a different size, but use the corner to keep that same ratio. So I'm just going to crop out this building because I think it's a little ugly. And I'm going to crop out that building because I think the same of it too. And I want to make sure I get the whole image in there. And now I hit save. And oops, no, I don't hit save. I just click outside. Okay, cool. All right. Sorry, hit save when you're done. Okay, now I crop my image. Now I'm going to use this as the background. So I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to move it to the background and not to the top, so that when I add something, it goes on top of it. Now I'm going to add my text. Add a new text. Have enough courage to start and enough heart to finish. Love it. Okay, so we're going to use that text and I'm going to put it and use the arrange tool to put it in the exact center. When that little red line comes up, that means you've reached the exact center. Now when that other line comes up, that means that whatever you're arranging is in the perfect dead center proportionally of the image. So that's what I want, so I'm going to leave it. This little tool at the top kind of makes it go from side to side. You can do it that way. I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to put it back to where it was. Perfect. Now again, you can adjust the font, you can adjust the color, you can adjust the size, you can adjust the spacing, you can adjust the background, all of this really fun stuff. You can create a shadow. It's really cool. So, and you can arrange it. Again, making things dead center. People like things to be proportional and dead center. So the human eye is attracted to that. So I'm just going to do that. Okay, and I can make it bold. I can put it to the side. I can put it to the side. I can make it centered. I can do uppercase. I can do lowercase. All these really cool fun things. All right, now I'm done with my text. Now you can see that you sorry, tongue twister. You see that you kind of can't see my text very well. You can't read it very well. So I'm going to adjust the image. Now, again, over here, I've already clicked on my text layer. So I'm going to now click on my background layer. And this additional layer, I don't really need. So I can click on these 3 dots at the top. And if you want to name your layers, that's an awesome way to like keep track of them if you're using a lot of them. Again, like I said, remember the transparency. You can like make it transparent or not transparent. Up to you. Locked means that it can't move. Unlock, and you can make them visible or hidden. I'm going to delete it though. Alrighty, now I am on my background image and I am going to adjust. I'm going to go to that tool that I said that all photographers use, and this adjusts the color, the light, and the toning. Now, I'm going to adjust the light. Now, light is the thing that will really make or break. You can use these little slide tools to adjust the darkness of the image. This is under brightness. You can also type in like a specific number if you want to do that. Up to you. Now, brightness, if you see that brightness kind of distorts my image. If I make it dark, I can see the words, but the image is kind of like gross in the background. This is where you want to go to exposure. Now I can lower the brightness of my image, but still kind of keeping the integrity of it a little bit more. So exposure is something that I would suggest using. Contrast is also a bit cool, a great thing to use if you wanted to make it softer and more lighter, or if you want to make it hard and contrasty. Up to you and your personal aesthetic. Just a tip though, if you want to make something look clean and professional, do not go to one extreme or the other. You kind of want to stay in this medium middle ground area. If you make it one extreme, then you have to really stick to that as like an aesthetic and like a purpose. You have to have a purpose to it. But if you want to make something look professional and like something that someone would actually like to look at, and you're not trying to make like a big statement or anything, stay in that middle ground area. And then adjusting all these bars. I would say personally, I think you should play around with it. That's the best way to understand how they work, what they do, how they affect something. Go ham. Go to every single bar and adjust it. If you don't like it, hit it all the way back to 0 by typing in that little thing right there. Yeah, and then once you do that, you can do it for all of them. You can do it for all of these little effects and try and see how they work and what they do. This program is made to be pretty intuitive and pretty simple. So just clicking on something, it's really easy to do. It'll like really say something explanatory and help you. It will, if you go over, it will tell you what it is. These are things that are just like really, really, really helpful and to use. I'm going to show you one last tool that I think is really helpful, and then we're going to kind of wrap it up for today. Okay. I'm going to use the magic cutout tool, or yeah, the magic cutout tool kind of follows a kind of like basically finds a color and cuts it out. So when you can see on the bottom here that I've completely cut out my background here with my magic tool, the lasso tool kind of like creates a shape and then cuts it out like that. You can always do Control-Z to undo, or you can do undo or redo at the bottom. Now, at the plus sign, I can add a layer and I can add an image. Oops, I don't want to add an image from my, oh, I guess I can do my desktop, sure. All right, now this layer is at the top. Now I'm going to put it at the bottom. Now I'm going to, oopsie. Now I'm going to click on the layer that I want to adjust because it just came in, and now I'm going to put it all the way to the back. Now I can always use the corners to adjust this, oops, to adjust this layer. No. You can always click on the layer if you really want to, and if it's not really cooperating with you. There we go. So now for a sky, I have all of this really cool, like swirly painting stuff instead of the blue, because I used the magic cutout tool to kind of cut out all that stuff. All right. So again, so basically to wrap up, and you can kind of like double click and click on layers to move them, and this arrange is where you can do all of that. So you can hit the arrange and then you can start to arrange your layers and click on them based on the layers that you want to arrange. Okay, sorry. That's pretty much the Pixlr kind of overview and basic tools that you can use and how to use them. It's really fun to mess around with and play, see what happens when you do. What I suggest, and you always remember, is keep track of your layers. Make sure you know the ratio of the images that you're using, and really spend some time on it playing around. That's a really good way to just learn the program. If you ever have issues, hover over an image and it will tell you what you need to do. All right, so that is my video. I hope you really enjoyed it. And I know that it's a little long, but it really will help you understand the program and the ins and outs of it, then give you a basic foundation. And then once you have that, you can run with it, really, really run with it and be creative. All right, so toodaloo, see you next time.